our socials back in June, you know that I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona. And while I was in Barcelona, I took a cooking class with Chef Alfonso, who was a very accomplished chef back in the day and remains one, of course. And he and his partner decided that they would start teaching culinary to travelers coming into Barcelona, which is a wonderful idea. So I signed up with my husband and we took a class learning how to make paella, gazpacho, creme catalan, and a white sangria. So I want to share the recipe for the gazpacho today because it was absolutely fabulous. And not only was it fabulous, but I found that our Southwestern Over the Top grain blend is an excellent complement to it because at the end of the day, gazpacho, like any soup, is fairly smooth. It's a puree. So everything in my world needs a little bit of signature crunch. So I'm going to share that recipe with you today. Let me share some of the ingredients that you're going to be using, and I'll just share a little bit about those ingredients. So in terms of making it Southwestern, when I made this recipe for the first time at home, I actually opted to use an Anaheim chili as opposed to the green bell pepper that was called for in the recipe. And the reason for this is I like a little heat, underlying heat in my food, and an Anaheim chili will provide just that. It doesn't get too spicy, although the older the pepper gets in your fridge, for example, if you've forgotten to use it, the spicier it will get. And of course, the spice is always going to be more concentrated in the seeds, the stem, and the rib of the pepper. So we're using that. We'll be using some red bell pepper, as well as a half a cucumber, and then 2 tomatoes. So these will be the baseline for our gazpacho. And in addition to that, we'll have some bread that we'll be using, some water to act as a little bit of a thinning agent while we're blending everything, and then of course some olive oil for flavor, and we'll finish this with some over the top. So sit back and let's get chopping. Okay, so Chopapalooza was pretty fun just now, and everything is prepared. So this whole recipe takes place in one blender, and that's it. Now, if you're gonna scale this and make double or triple, you're gonna need to do this in a few batches because this will not hold everything. Even if you have a Roboku or you're using a Vitamix or something, it's a lot, so just heads up to that. One of the things I always do as a chef is I plan the order of everything, of how it's gonna go into the blender or into the pot or the saute pan, so then I'm not stuck looking at a recipe the entire time. So I highly recommend that for you as well. So anyway, so here's what's gonna happen because we're gonna make some noise. I'm gonna add first our bread right here, and I'm using a little bit of a sourdough today. So the bread's gonna go into the blender, and I'm gonna add our water to that, okay? And you can see that it's not just a little bit of water. So let's go ahead and get that pureed up, and then we're going to add a few things to this. Okay, that's all that takes. Next thing that's gonna go in is my chopped Anaheim and my red bell pepper. And I'm going to also add to this my garlic clove and my cucumber, okay? And we're gonna give this a little bit of a whirl, okay? And that's it there. And now the fun part, we're gonna add our tomatoes, and let's see if we can fit them all in. Looks like we can. So let's just go ahead, put them in, and now let's see if we need to give this a few shakes, rattles, and nope, that's all we need to do there. Okay, that just leaves a few ingredients left. We have our olive oil, we have some salt, and if you want to raise the acidity of the dish, you can also add some vinegar, okay? So let's take a moment, let's taste what we have, and then from there we can decide what we want to do. Okay, so, well, it's definitely going to need some salt, but boy do I get the kick from the Anaheim. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little salt to that, about a tablespoon. Remember, this serves like 10 people. And now, while I'm going to start adding my olive oil to this, and we're going to then emulsify this, okay? Woo! It's not fun unless you take a bath in it. The last step for your gazpacho is to strain it. And you can use any kind of strainer you might have at your house. A fine strainer is ideal. I'm going to use something called a chinois, and this is one of my favorite tools, and it is exactly that. So as you'll see, I'm going to pour this through, and you can see it coming out the bottom, and it'll start to strain through the little hole as well. So after you fully strained it, and it really is such a beautiful, smooth puree, obviously you want to taste it again for flavor. This is your opportunity to season it a little bit more. And in this case, we definitely need a little more salt. And then I think the only other thing we might need, if we really wanted to, is a little bit of acid if you want that. That tastes great. Remember, this is a chilled soup. So I would highly recommend putting that into a beautiful pitcher, and then let's get ready to serve.